All right, let's be real here for a sec. Apple has never made a Mac this affordable. I mean, sure, the Mac Mini starts at $599, but you're going to have to invest in other accessories to get it up and running. But the MacBook Neo, with the same price point, or just $499 if you're a student, is Apple's answer to everyone who wants to get into the ecosystem without breaking the bank. So these are my first impressions minutes after the announcement. Unfortunately, I was able to get to the in-person event, but thanks to the internet, we do have a ton of information online and also assess some of the things that you might miss. Let's start with the design. The MacBook Neo is a 13-inch laptop. It's similar in size compared to the MacBook Air, but it's just a tiny bit smaller. It's 0.5 inches thin versus 0.44 inches on the Air. So the Air still carries the crown of being the thinnest Mac in the lineup. But here's what surprised me. The Neo and the MacBook Air weigh exactly the same, around 2.7 pounds or 1.23 kilos. So you're really not sacrificing on the portability aspect here. The chassis is made out of recycled aluminum throughout, and it comes in 4 tasteful colors, which is silver, blush, which is kind of like a pink shade. There's also citrus and indigo, which is a lighter color palette of the midnight blue variant that you get with the MacBook Air. Now, what's interesting is Apple has translated that color into the interior space, including the keycaps. And I am not sure how I feel about this yet. I have a feeling that the silver model is going to be the most popular since it's neutral and it just blends into everything else. And if you look at the display, it spans across 13 inches. It is an IPS panel with a 2.4K resolution at 60 Hz with SDR brightness levels reaching 500 nits, which is awesome for a laptop at this price point. It does seem like they're also using the same panel as the MacBook Air for the Neo, and because it is using an IPS panel, you're not going to be dealing with any PWM flickering issues that OLED offers with some of the Windows laptops out there. Up top, you get a 1080p FaceTime HD camera. It looks pretty solid for video calls, but I'll have to test that out. Audio-wise, you're getting dual side-firing speakers. I'm not sure if it's going to be as good as the MacBook Air or let alone the MacBook Pro's insane sound system built in, but I will have to listen to this myself and give you guys my verdict on it, so certainly stay tuned for our full review. Now, the keyboard setup is a bit different on the Neo. The base model at $599 does not come with Touch ID. If you do want that, it is an extra $100, but you also get twice the storage size, so 512 gigabytes versus 256 gigabytes on the base model. One thing you'll also notice is that Apple has relabeled some of the keys on their entire MacBook lineup. So the tab, the caps lock, the left and right shift keys, the return key, and the delete key, they're all been replaced from text to shapes or icons, if you want to put it that way. Another cost-cutting measure that you notice is you don't get LED backlighting on the Neo. I'm not sure how people are going to feel about this, but I also have a feeling that the reason why Apple did end up color coordinating the colors of the exterior design to the keycaps was to make sure that it is bright enough so you can actually see the keys at night, especially when the display brightness sort of reflects off the keycaps. It's a bold move from Apple, but if you shift gears to the trackpad, this is where, again, it's one of those cost-cutting measures that come into play. Instead of the Force Touch trackpads that we're used to on the MacBook Pros, the MacBook Airs, Apple has replaced it with something a bit more cost-effective. I'm not sure if the surface is coated in Mylar or if it's plastic or if it's glass, but it seems like they're using the old-school button style instead of the haptics. Again, this could be a deal breaker for some people, and it could also make or break the macOS experience. Now, if you look at ports, well, you only get one USB-C 3.2 Gen 2 port and another USB 2 Type-C capped at only 480 megabytes per second, plus an audio jack. You don't get MagSafe, there's no HDMI, there's no Thunderbolt, so this is one of those instances where you'll need to embrace the dongle life. And if you're thinking about external display support, it supports one 4K display at 60 Hz while simultaneously running the built-in display, which is not bad, but again, if you're thinking about running 2 screens or 2 or 3 screens, it's not going to cut it. But you might be asking, why? Why is the Neo so limiting? Well, the answer is pretty simple. The MacBook Neo is powered by Apple's A18 Pro chip. You know, the chip that debuted on the iPhone 16 Pro, which is a 2-year-old phone. You see, the chips on iPhones in the last few years have proven to be incredibly fast and efficient. And a lot of people were trying to compare their performance to laptops. Some even speculated what it would look like when you have a Mac with an A17 or A18 chip inside. And, well, look where we are right now. I don't get why Apple chose to go with the A18 Pro instead of the A19 Pro from the current iPhone 17 Pro lineup. It Could be, again, a cost savings measure, but also Apple might not have wanted the Neo to compete with the current Pro branding of the iPhone since they are in completely different price brackets. So yeah, it's still a capable chip, but here's what we know about the A18 Pro. It's a 6-core CPU paired with a 5-core GPU, while the current M5 sits at 10 CPU cores and 8 GPU cores. The M5 also comes paired or standard with 16 GB of RAM, while the A18 Pro on the Neo comes 8 GB across the board, which some might say could be limiting, but honestly, I think for most people, it's going to be fine with macOS, although I will have to test that out myself to see if it's actually enough, because from my experience with macOS Tahoe, there have been some increased memory consumption, but again, it all comes down to user experience and workflow. So we'll find out if it's actually enough. But that got me thinking. Let's assume that Apple's using the same power limit for the MacBook Neo's A18 Pro as they did for the iPhone, which would make sense since they're also using the same 20-watt charger as the 16 Pro series. Well, that means we could get some idea of performance right away. But I want to preface this a bit first. These are numbers we ran ourselves across the devices you'll see, but the A18 Pro's performance is based on a smartphone's power envelope, not the MacBooks. If Apple decides to increase its power limit past the nominal 9 watts we saw during testing, it would get better results. So take these numbers with an indication of what the MacBook Neo's performance could look like. So one area where the mobile A series chips typically suffer against laptop processors is in multi-threaded benchmarks. Neither the processor nor the MacBook Neo was built for heavy multitasking scenarios, so while it's technically tied with the M1 and a bit behind the M2 found in the MacBook Air, it's far behind the M3 and M4 versions. On the other hand, its high clock speeds allow for really incredible performance in lightly threaded scenarios, almost reaching M4 levels of performance. So what does that tell us? Well, Apple's gone and picked a processor that fits the Neo's target market. It's going to feel really snappy and responsive in daily use and be perfectly fine for some very basic creative workloads. But if you're looking for more consistent output and a wider range of apps, the MacBook Air would be the next logical step upwards. But you know what? The more I look into this thing, the more I'm starting to realize the MacBook Neo might have bigger shoes to fill, especially for those who are still rocking Apple's iconic M1 MacBook Air. You know, the classic clamshell design that still, to this date, it just has a special place in my heart. I mean, I've recommended this laptop to so many of my friends and family. I actually bought one for my mom and she's still using it to this day. The question really comes down to whether or not if the A18 Pro performs better than the M1. I picked up this refurbished MacBook Air M1 for around $500, and it is in pretty decent condition. The battery hasn't degraded all that much. It still runs macOS Tahoe pretty well, and you still get things like a Force Touch trackpad, a backlit keyboard, Thunderbolt ports, Touch ID, and a bigger battery. Speaking of battery, the Neo comes equipped with a 36.5 watt-hour battery, and it comes with a 20-watt USB-C charger. And with that, Apple claims 11 hours of battery life while browsing. Now, while we have no idea what their methodology for that is, if we line it up with some of other modern laptops we've tested over the last 6 months, it falls behind. I mean, sure, we'll only know where things really lie when we get one in for testing, but like a lot of other things with the MacBook Neo, it seems to be, well, I mean, good enough for its intended market. What's really interesting is how we look at the efficiency front. It might have a pretty minuscule battery, but it still does really well when normalized down to how many minutes of battery life it achieves per watt of capacity. Also, I know that this might be a bit off topic, but if you have a budget of around $1,200 and if you want to get into the Apple ecosystem, the MacBook Neo paired with the new iPhone 17e is like the ultimate gateway drug. Because if you pair the Mac and the iPhone together, you unlock a lot of features like making phone calls and sending text messages within your Mac. Handoff is a great feature as well. You can start one thing on your Mac, finish it on the iPhone, and vice versa. There's iPhone mirroring. Basically, it allows you to control your iPhone on your Mac. AirDrop lets you share photos or files between devices. I use this regularly. And there's also Instant Hotspot. You can use your iPhone cellular connection. Universal Clipboard. You can copy one thing on your Mac, paste it on your iPhone, and vice versa. Apple says that the Mac and iPhone are incredible on their own, but when you actually use them together, it's interesting how you just unlock a whole new set of features and it just works pretty well. I also want to quickly go over some other product releases this week from Apple. First up, we have the MacBook Air. It's refreshed with the M5 chip. Sadly, there is a price hike from $999 to $1099. But the base storage has been bumped up from 256 gigabytes to 512 gigabytes, so it's not a bad deal, all things considered. There's also some new MacBook Pros. They've essentially been refreshed to M5 Pro and M5 Max chips. These things honestly look like absolute beasts for creators or just anyone looking for a high-performance Mac. The M5 Pro has an 18-core CPU, so that consists of 6 super cores for high performance and 12 performance cores. It supposedly delivers up to 30% more multi-core performance over M4 Pro. You also get a 20-core GPU, and it has over 300 gigabytes per second of memory bandwidth. The M5 Max basically has the same layout as the M5 Pro, but you do get a massive 40-core GPU, and the memory bandwidth is 600 gigabytes per second, which is almost twice what you get with the M5 Pro. We also got 2 new studio displays. The main star of the show is the Studio Display XDR. It's a 27-inch monitor with 5K resolution and 120 Hz refresh rate, which is a welcoming upgrade over my older Studio Display with the 60 Hz LED panel. And it also uses mini LED, which not only brings in really good color accuracy to the table, but also insane brightness output. I believe that thing can go up to 1000 nits SDR. Now, if you look at the price, obviously it is out of my budget, but hey, I can be excited about stuff that I can afford, right? I also think the MacBook Neo will most definitely stir up the laptop market for the rest of the year. And the reason I say that is because at that price point, Apple's really trying to poach 2 different categories. We've got folks who are on the Chromebook side, right? At that price point, you are pretty much getting a really good value overall. And then you have some options from Intel. You know, they have their Panther Lake CPUs, AMD coming up with Gorgon Point, and a lot of the devices that are out there right now are well over $1,000. It's gonna be really hard to find something that can compete against the MacBook Neo in terms of build quality, the display, and the overall user experience. But that could change. It could be the worst experience when I get it in the studio and, start using it. Or it could just be something awesome. So stay tuned for our full review, guys. It's going to be an exciting next couple of weeks. So if you guys have any questions about the MacBook Neo, if you need to know anything else, let us know in the comments down below. I'll make sure to address that in my full review. I'm Iber with Hardware Canucks. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you guys in the next one.